Okay. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
My name is Alex, and I'm going to be giving you your first flute lesson today. Okay, so the first thing that I want you to do is tell me about your musical background. Do you have any experience playing music at all?
I don't have a lot of experience, but I did play recorder in elementary school.
Okay, perfect. So what I want you to do first for me is I want to see if you can read rhythms and if you can read notes.
Okay.
So I'd like you to, have you ever done a clap and count before where you say the numbers and then clap the rhythm?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like you to do that with this rhythm and to show me if you can do a rhythm or not.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and.
Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, and now can you tell me what these three notes are?
Okay, so I see E, B, and A.
Okay, great. So you can obviously read rhythms already and read notes already, which is great. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to work on breathing.
Okay.
Okay? You need a ton of air to play the flute and to get a good sound on the flute. So what I want you to know is that the flute doesn't have very much resistance on it because it's not like an oboe or a clarinet where there's a reed or something that's providing resistance, and instead it's just the air that's making the sound. So what I want you to do is I want you to breathe in really deeply and then breathe out, just so I can see how you're doing your regular breathing. Yeah, so when you're breathing, some things that might help you is you want to think about expanding your diaphragm first,
Okay.
then your side and your back, and then finally your upper chest, so filling from the bottom up. And then also something that may help you is to think of breathing in the syllable how, but doing it backwards, like this. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, so why don't you try that for me? Yeah, and I want you to get as much air in as possible, and then you don't want the air to ever be idle. So as soon as you get it out, you want to turn it around and exhale it back out if you're actually playing the flute.
Okay.
Okay, so good. So now what I want you to try to do is I want you to take this piece of paper and try to hold it against the wall using just your air, okay, to see if you can have enough air to play the flute. Okay. So I'm going to demonstrate what I want you to do. So you're going to put the paper up against the wall, and you're going to hold it just with your air, like this. Okay? Can you try it?
Sure.
Yeah, great. Okay. So you're kind of beginning to understand the kind of air support that you need to play the flute. Okay, and different breathing exercises that you can do is you can put your thumb in your mouth and blow as hard as you can, and that'll give you a kind of idea of how much air you need to use. You can also do simple breathing exercises like breathing in for 4 and breathing out for 4, or breathing in for 2 and breathing out for 2, or in for 1, out for 1. Anything just to get the air moving, okay? And really support from your diaphragm. That's really important.
Okay.
Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is how to put the flute together, okay? So let's put it together. Make sure you open your case with the upside up, which is not that, yeah, okay. So open up your case. Perfect. Okay, now this is called the head joint. So I want you to grip it underneath the lip plate,
Okay.
which is this piece here, okay? And I want you to then grip the body above the keys so you don't bend any of the mechanisms. Yeah, and then I want you to gently twist these together so that the lip plate hole in the middle of the lip plate, also called the aperture hole, lines up with the keys.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense? Okay, now I want you to grip the body, again, not on the keys, and this time take the foot joint, and then I want you to put the rod right in the middle of the keys. Right, so that the rod matches up with the keys of the body. Perfect. Okay, so now you can put your case back on the floor. Okay. Now, when you play flute, there are 3 balance points. One is going to be your left index finger, and one is going to be your right thumb, okay? And your left index finger is going to go right across from this key here, okay? And then your right thumb is going to go right under this key right here, which is the 3rd circle or key to the left of the pinky keys, okay? Then the 3rd balance point is going to be right on your chin, okay? So when you're playing the flute, those are the 3 balance points, okay? You never want to use the keys for support and for holding up the flute, if that makes sense. Okay, so now The next thing that I want to talk about in terms of holding the flute is you want to make sure that your left wrist is going to be really bent and your right wrist remains straight. A lot of times people use the analogy of going to grab a book on a bookshelf for the right wrist, if that makes sense. Okay?
Okay.
And you want to make sure that nothing's tense, everything's really firm, but you don't want to have a lot of tension when you're playing the flute. Okay? That's really important. Okay, perfect. So we'll talk about fingerings later. So we'll get to that. Okay. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is where to place the mouthpiece. Okay. So there's one technique that a lot of people like to use, which is called the plant and roll, which means that you can put the aperture hole right in the middle of your lips, like this, and then just roll it down. And then, ideally, you want your lips to cover about 1/4 or 1/3 of the aperture hole, if that makes sense. Okay? So why don't you just try that really quick? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to try to form the aperture. So you can put that down. Okay, so what you want to do when you want to form the aperture is say we two. Okay? So say that. Say we two.
We two.
And so your lips are going to be puckered forward a little bit after saying the syllable two. And then I want you to bring your corners down like you're frowning firmly, but again, really try not to have any tension. Okay? So it's going to look something like this. Two. Yeah, that looks really good. Okay. So something else so we already talked about how the lips should be 1/4 or 1/3 over the aperture hole. And then I want you to use your air in such a way that when your air moves across the aperture hole, it should be split right on this rim, right in half. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay. And then if you're using your air correctly, there should be a little triangle of condensation that comes right on the other side of the aperture hole. Okay? Okay, so you're doing really, really well. So I think right now what we should try to do is try to play our first notes. Okay? But first, we want to get a sound. So what you want to do first is you want to take off your head joint. You're going to try to just make a sound with the head joint first. Okay. So just hold up your head joint, and then, so we talked about, you can do the plant and roll technique if you want. Otherwise, you can just put it firmly in the lower curvature of your jaw, and then make sure your lip is 1/4 to 1/3 over the aperture hole. Corners down and firmly back. Okay? Right. Okay, yeah. So I think you probably had your lips a little bit too in, and when you rolled it out a little bit, you were good. Okay, so try that again. Okay, good. So you're getting a sound. Okay, so what? Try to move your upper lip a little bit more back. Okay, you're kind of going like this. Yeah. You're kind of overbiting it a little bit. It should be pretty firm, like this. Yeah, and good. And try to make the aperture a little bit smaller, which I think is what you did. Okay, perfect. Okay, so that's really, really good. Good job. Okay, so let's put the head joint back on. Okay, so now the next thing I want you to try to do is see if you can, so we talked about the 3 balance points, right? The left index finger, the right thumb, and then your chin. See if you can make a sound just with those 3 balance points. So see if you can do that.
Where do I put this thumb?
Yeah, your thumb just kind of rests above this key, but don't put it down. Okay. That's something that I had a lot of trouble with when I was learning. So make sure that you're really cradling the flute with your left index finger.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Yeah. So it can be really hard at first. Okay. So make sure that I understand. Okay. So make sure that the flute is going to be perpendicular to your head, but parallel to the ground. Okay. So make sure that you've got a good situation going on there.
Okay.
Okay. And then, are you comfortable with the way you're holding it, or do you need to go over that a little again?
I think I feel comfortable. Does this look right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's try it. Yeah. Let's try it one more time. Okay. So yeah. Yeah. Great job. Okay. Good. So you got a sound out. So that's really good. Now something else that I want to try now is there a few notes that are sometimes easier to get out than other notes, and one of those first notes is B. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to put your thumb on this key right here. Good. Okay. And then this on the second hole if you're going from the right to the left.
Okay.
Okay, let me just make sure you got that. Perfect. And then I want you to put your pinky key right here on the closest pinky key, yeah, to your head. Perfect. Okay, so try playing a B. Yeah, it's a little bit hard. I think you're trying to bring your head to the flute. Bring your flute to your head, okay?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Okay, can you try to reduce the size of your aperture a little bit? Yeah, so. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're also kind of, you don't have to do the plan control every time you want to do it, okay?
Uh-huh.
Instead, that's kind of just a way to figure out where the mouthpiece goes. My mistake. Okay, so just put it kind of in the lower curvature of your jaw.
Okay.
Make sure your lip is covering a fourth to a third of the aperture hole. Can you feel that, where the rim is?
Yeah.
Okay, and then, yeah, good, okay. And you can experiment a little bit with rolling it out and in just to kind of get the exact right mouthpiece placement for you, because it's going to be a little bit different for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, are you, okay, yeah, okay, it just sounds a bit different, but our intonations could just be off a little bit, okay? So now the next note that I want you to try is B flat. Okay, so that means you're going to put your first finger down here. So that's the third key. Yep,
Okay.
right there. So try that, so it's the sound. Yeah, okay. So something to keep in mind is when you're playing in the upper registers, your air should go straight across the aperture hole or the lip plate, whatever you want to call this. And then when you're playing the lower register, which is what we're doing right now, this is more of lower register, you want to direct your air down a little bit. The higher register, it's a faster airspeed, and in the lower register, you have to slow your air down a little bit. It's kind of like fogging up a window when you're playing in the lower register. Okay, so let's try B flat again. Do you remember the fingering for it?
That was like this.
Yeah. So. Yes, that's awesome. Great job. Okay. Now another note that we're going to try is A. Okay, so we're just going another half step down. So you're going to take off this index finger that you had, and instead you're going to have your index finger here. Then you're going to not do the next one over, but the one after that.
Okay.
Perfect. And then that's it, and your thumb stays in the right place, and your pinky stays in the same place. So. Yeah, great job. Okay, so now let's try going up a little bit. I want you to try to play, first I want you to try to play a D, okay, because that's one of my favorite notes. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to have your ring finger on the first key, yeah, then your middle finger on the key next to it, and your index finger on the key next to that. Then you're going to skip 2 keys over, and your third finger is going to go right here. Let me just make sure. Yep. Then your ring finger is going to go right next to it, and your index finger is going to stay off.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then your thumb's still in the same place, and you do not put the pinky key down. Okay? So it's going to sound like this. Yeah, great job. Okay. So try to have a smaller aperture and a steadier stream of air. And you can experiment a little bit with rolling it out and move the mouthpiece a little bit just so you get exactly what's right for you. Okay? Yeah, great job. Okay, now the next thing that I want to talk about, in your practicing this week or until I see you next, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to focus on getting a really strong sound. But on our first lesson, I just want to establish some of the fundamentals, so we're going to talk a little bit about articulation. Okay? Okay. So for articulation, you want to use a to or a do syllable, depending on how legato or staccato the music is. Okay, so something also to keep in mind is the airspeed that you want to use and the air type that you want to use is who and ku. So who, ku, who, ku. That's the kind of air you want to use when you're articulating. Can you just say who and ku for me?
Who, ku.
Does that feel different from the way that you would usually use your air? Who, ku. It's kind of more directed.
Yeah, it does feel different.
Okay, good. And so then the next thing to keep in mind is you want to keep your tongue in your mouth when you're articulating. Okay, it's a lot different from a lot of other instruments. You want to avoid explosive articulations. It's supposed to be very gentle. And even when you're playing staccato notes, you don't want it to be like from, if that makes sense. Yeah, so make sure you keep it in your mouth. Really be careful that you are tonguing. A lot of people use air attacks, which is also not good. So what was the easiest note for you out of the ones that we just played, if you had to guess?
Probably I guess the B, the first
The B?
one.
Okay, so let's go back to B.
Okay.
So that's thumb, index finger, and the pinky key.
Index finger and the pinky key.
Okay. Okay, so just try to go. And your tongue's gonna kind of touch in your mouth still, kind of on the roof behind the top row of your teeth. Okay? So two, 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 two.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and do you mind if I touch you a little bit to
No, that's
tweak your
fine.
hand position? Okay, so what we're talking about with bending the left wrist, you're probably going to want to bend it like it's supposed to be bent in, not bent out. You're bending it like out like this.
That'll probably make it a little more comfortable.
Yeah, right.
A little bit.
Okay. Yeah, so that's good. And then also, you're doing a really good job with your posture, which is why I haven't mentioned it yet. But just keep it in mind in case it starts slipping throughout the next week. You want to keep your feet probably flat on the floor when you are practicing, and you want to keep your back really nice and straight, but not tense. Again, everything's about not being tense. Okay. And if you were standing, you can put the flute down for a second, just while I'm talking. If you were standing, what you'd want to do is you'd want to have your left foot a little bit in front of your right, because your body should be angled a little bit in order to get the maximum air into your body in order to play flute. Okay, so that's really good. So now hold your flute up again, and let's see if we can get a little bit of better hand position.
Okay.
Yeah, so bend your wrist in like this. Guys, did you see? Yeah. Put it on this one. Okay.
This one?
Yeah. It should be. Can I see your flute really quick? Yeah. Right there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's just real attitude. Okay. But we'll fix that at a later date.
Okay.
Okay. Great. You're doing great. So just remember, you're still having a little bit of trouble with your wrist going out this way.
Okay.
That's okay. We'll fix it. But you want to try to keep it in a little bit more. And I think that's about all I have to teach you. Do you have any other questions?
I don't think so. Thank you very much.
Okay. You're welcome. Okay. So practice this week and everything.
Definitely.